McCaysville, located at the top of Georgia in Fannin County, as far north as you can go. The Georgia and Tennessee state lines divide McCaysville with its sister twin city of Copper Hill, Tennessee. This is the McCaysville Steel Bridge. You might say it's a magical mystery bridge silently spanning the Toccoa River. The mystery is a story that claims this bridge was floated here from another site upriver. A more magical tale claims a remarkably similar looking bridge is currently sitting below 125 feet of water under Blue Ridge Lake, with the teller of that tale claiming that he knows it as a fact. Well, the true detective story, with all the facts, starts back in 1916. Because in that year, President Woodrow Wilson signed into law the Federal Aid Road Act to provide funds to build roads all across the country. In 1919, the State Highway Board was formed in Georgia to help secure these federal aid dollars. On May 11, 1920, Fannin County Ordinary George A. Curtis filed a request for sealed bids in the manufacturer's record, calling for construction of a 200-foot steel bridge for over the Toccoa River. This was before Blue Ridge Lake existed. The Toccoa River ran free all the way to the Tennessee border, where it became the Ocoee River. The main span of the new bridge was to be 16 feet wide and 150 feet long, known as a steel Pratt truss, shown here in the original 1920 blueprints. The blueprints also show the path the Blue Ridge to Blairsville Highway would take, out of the town of Blue Ridge, down towards and over the Toccoa River, where the site of the new bridge was to be constructed, just south of an existing covered bridge and road. This was a federal aid project, with construction beginning sometime in late 1920 and continuing through 1921. From the air over Blue Ridge Lake today, this is the approximate original path of the Toccoa River. In 1921, the road would have dipped down from the west from around the current location of the Lake Blue Ridge Marina, crossing over the Toccoa River on the new steel bridge about here, and then the road would have continued east to Morganton Point. From 1920 through 1921, the workers who built this bridge were from all over Fannin County, including Avery Craig, who stands as the tallest man at the top of the bridge in this photo. His son Arliss Craig tells the story that his father would walk from their home near present-day Loving Road to the construction site each day to work on the bridge. On January 1, 1922, the fourth annual report of the State Highway Board was published, featuring a photo of the completed new bridge over the Toccoa River. At some point near the end of construction of the steel bridge in 1921, an amazing sight would have presented itself. Two bridges, almost right next to each other, crossing the Toccoa River. The older covered bridge, rising high above the river, balanced on piers in the river channel, and the modern steel replacement bridge to its south. But this amazing sight would have been short-lived, as the covered bridge would soon be torn down. The older covered bridge dates back to at least 1896, when it appears on a U.S. Geological Survey map for the area. One person who knew that covered bridge well was Baina Kincaid.
Baina was from Blue Ridge, but she went to boarding school in Morganton, and she would go by wagon. They would take her to school, and she would go across the original covered bridge. It was very high up, and she didn't like the height. It freaked her out, and so it was an unpleasant part of her journey.
Rural communities at the time needed electricity, so in the mid-1920s, plans were made for a new hydroelectric dam, along with a reservoir to be called Lake Toccoa. Construction was soon underway by the Toccoa Electric Company, a subsidiary of TEPCO, the Tennessee Electric Power Company, on a brand new dam to harness the Toccoa River's power. A photograph from the dam site in 1926 shows the steel bridge barely visible 4,000 yards away. You can also see the remains of the road approach and central piers where the covered bridge once stood. At some point around this time, it was realized that a state highway and bridge built with federal funds would soon be submerged once the area was flooded. TEPCO had noted as early as July 1924 that the steel span could be salvaged and used elsewhere. TEPCO had also considered using the steel truss over the new dam's spillway in November 1924, but the span was too short and would have required a second span to suit their needs, so the plan was abandoned. Could it really be possible that they would just let a relatively brand new bridge built with federal dollars be submerged under a lake? And why did so many people claim they saw the water rise and cover the bridge when they first flooded the lake?
It was split. Half of the people that we talked to swore they saw the water come up. I mean, they were absolutely convinced they were there. This wasn't what their dad remembered. This was that they saw. And they swore that the water came up and made it disappear. Half the people swore that they watched it disassembled.
Well, actually, here's what really happened. On September 16, 1930, a call for bids was posted in the Atlanta Constitution, with bids due just 5 days later to dismantle the bridge over the Toccoa River. Work had to be completed quickly by October 15, 1930, when the bridge site would be flooded. The article also noted the bridge would be re-erected at another site. 11 days later, the Blue Ridge Summit Post reported that the highway bridge over the Toccoa River above the dam was being torn down. So, the bridge was not left there, 125 feet underwater, flooded by the lake in October 1930. It was disassembled, taken apart like a giant erector set.
Offer won't last long. Here's how to order.
Eyewitnesses recounted that the bridge's rivet heads were chiseled off when they disassembled it. Now we come to the floating bridge story, which claims the bridge was floated downstream to McCaysville. At the time, there were at least 3 bridges between the bridge site and McCaysville that a barge with a disassembled bridge would need to clear. Hogback Bend Bridge and the adjacent Mineral Bluff spur of the Louisville and Nashville Railroad Bridge with its very narrow support piers, plus the second Louisville and Nashville Railroad Bridge just outside of McCaysville. Also in 1930, it was the time of one of the worst droughts in Georgia history, so the Toccoa River water levels would have been very low, and a barge loaded with a bridge would have been very heavy. Ever tube down the Toccoa when the river is low? Then you're keenly aware of the all too important bottom to river bottom ratio.
Charles Henry, that lived on the river, right near the bridge, near the concrete bridge. In fact, their garage was the current visitor center. He said that he saw it float by. So then I went to Charles Abernathy. He said, we did a Tom Sawyer thing. We built a raft, and my brother and I floated all the way from the dam down to Horseshoe Bend. And everybody was worried because it took us longer than we thought it would, because we kept getting stuck. Now this is a raft with 2 kids on it, 2 12-year-old kids on it. And he said, there's no way that it could have. It's just not possible.
But the most damning argument as to why the bridge was not floated downriver to McCaysville is the actual dam itself. In October 1930, dam construction was complete, and they began holding back the Toccoa to flood the region and create the lake, so the dam itself would have been the biggest obstacle of any barge full of bridge parts trying to head downriver. So in fact, the bridge was disassembled and stored somewhere. Lake Toccoa was dedicated with great fanfare on July 4, 1931. Thousands of people rode the rails up from Atlanta for the celebration. And somewhere nearby, a pile of slightly used steel lay in waiting. This is Joe Griffin. Amazingly today, as seen from above, looking straight down to a depth of approximately 125 feet below Blue Ridge Lake, sonar operated by Griffin revealed the archaeological remains of the approach roads and abutments that originally held the current McCaysville steel bridge when it was at this location over the Toccoa River between 1921 and 1930. Side sonar scans reveal the profile of the approach road railings, standing tall, still intact almost 90 years later. On August 1st, 1935, another call for bids went out for construction of 2 bridges in McCaysville. one new concrete bridge to straighten out the road and traffic through McCaysville, and one for the reassemblage of a certain steel bridge that had been stored somewhere for some 5 years, most likely at the State Highway Board's Blue Ridge Maintenance Facility under the watchful eye of Patrolman Herman E. Wilson. The Fannin County Times article states that this bridge was only used for a few years and will be a great improvement over the one now in use. The bridge in use at the time in McCaysville was a steel bridge built around 1910. The blueprints from 1935 show the position of the bridges over the Toccoa. Details in the plans mention the lump sum hauling, painting, and re-erecting of the 150-foot truss. So finally, in 1936, after the concrete bridge a block away had been completed, the steel bridge that was originally built 12 miles south of McCaysville on a site that was by then flooded by Lake Toccoa, recently renamed Blue Ridge Lake, was hauled from a place it was being stored to McCaysville and re-erected and painted. And that is the bridge that stands there today, the McCaysville Steel Bridge. A century old in 2021. A mystery no more, though definitely a heritage landmark that's magical. And that's a fact. Have a story idea for this show? Visit us at historybend.org and let us know.